Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video, and time for some unabashed positivity about Season of the Wish. Obviously, this is the day that the dungeon launches as well. I'm recording before that. I'm going to watch people run on streams, and then I think I'm going to play it with my friends tomorrow night. I don't really care about going in blind, I just want to see what it's like, and all the twists and turns, and not have to stay off the freaking internet for 48 hours, so whatever. Today, I wanted to talk about the Coil, which is the central slash only activity this season. We think we're getting an exotic mission later, but there's the Coil and Riven's Lair. Riven's Lair just being like kind of a one-off run-through with a chest at the end. But the Coil is the main one, where you go through 4 circuit loops of not quite the same thing, but like different variations of these different hallways with different kind of traps and things, and then a mob encounter room, and then a boss encounter room. So 2 traversals, and then 2 rooms, and then you do this 4 times. It does sound kind of exhausting, and it is a pretty long activity if you go all the way through all 4 tiers. It's about 40 minutes, depending. I mean, you can do it in less if you're amazing, or more if you're dying a lot, but you have a limited pool of revives, and you have 2 teammates. And this is where the fun begins, because obviously how good this is can depend on your performance and how good your teammates are, and whether they keep dying and dying and dying on spikes. But I think over time people are getting it, and there's just so many interesting things about this, and I think it really is in the running for possibly the best seasonal activity the game has had, and this is only in week 1, and there's more stuff being added to it over time. I really cannot stress enough that their seasonal activities on the whole have just dramatically improved over time. I really liked both the Season of the Witch activities. There were some things that maybe could have been tweaked, but the Coil seems like a culmination of really almost everything they've learned through like all of Destiny's seasons, which I guess is fitting because this is the last season, where I am willing to say that I think it might be better than Menagerie, and that's even without seeing future weeks of content. That is both in terms of the difficulty, type of difficulty, the rewards, the way you get rewards, and just kind of the overall vibe of the thing. And I'll go into that deeper in a minute with Menagerie, but some things I like about the Coil, the loop where difficulty increases, by 5 power or whatever every time, is interesting and makes it increasingly hard as time goes on, depending on your teammates. But you're also getting these buff upgrades from Riven as you go so you could take less damage from bosses, do more damage with your subclass, and then we have the cursed Scorch one, which I found out was a bug where you can apply Scorch to enemies on solar damage, but you will start burning alive yourself and can't stop it. Not a cursed Ahamkara wish, just a bug. Don't pick that one. So that is, you progress down and down, and you get further and further, kind of like deep dives, but I would say not quite as insane as deep dives, especially with all the crazy solar builds and stuff you can do this season, and stasis to a certain extent. But I enjoy this kind of difficulty because they're doing it without just throwing a bunch of champions on you. Like, that always seems to be their kind of go-to most of the time, where it's like, well, okay, we have a normal mode, which is super easy, and then we're going to have the hard mode where we replace, every 4 or 5 enemies with a champion, and have fun with that. And champions are whatever. They have given us a lot of tools to deal with champions at this point, more than we've had previously, but to me, it will always be more engaging to increase the difficulty in other ways, like type of objective, like arena layout, enemy strength, like stuff like that, without something that purposefully limits my loadout. Like, I really don't want to run Wish Ender all the time for anti-barrier, or whatever the best in slot option is for that at a given time. That or sidearms right now, or just being radiant. I don't know. It's just something I would rather not worry about, and I would rather just play experimenting with all the really cool builds that there are. Over the last few seasons, they've done a great job of really widening the amount of builds that can perform. Maybe not in like crazy ass high-end GM content or master raids or whatever, but like a normal, somewhat challenging activity like getting through all 4 tiers of this. Like, there are many options you can do, and there is no need to prepare yourself for champions. It's just, there are surges, there are some detrimental modifiers, but it's really just, kind of whatever you want to do. And I've had a great time doing that. Really lets you do whatever you want. This is how I felt about, I remember feeling this way about the heroic campaign, where, again, that was like a much harder version of a normal thing, but it wasn't just because they did champions or because they just capped you ridiculously under light level, like to an absurd degree, where that's not happening here either, and I think it benefits for it. I think it benefits for being a 3-man activity instead of a 6-man activity. Menagerie had 6 people, which I think most people have come to realize that outside of raids or like PvP, it's a little rare to get a truly amazing 6-man activity anymore. Like, it's just so hard to keep up with in terms of the power we have to mob clear, to the point where like 6 people is just too many. And the best example of this recently was the frickin' Season of the Deep thing with the platforms outside. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was terrible because it was 6 people, enemy density was like barely there, and it was just, you were just standing around like shooting things out of a doorway half the time. Like, it was very dull. Whereas now they have increased enemy density and dropped the number of players for something like this, and it's very chaotic, it's very fun, it's very challenging. The addition of a revive token system here kind of adds a new dynamic, and you really got to watch your lives, both in the traversal parts and in combat. And it's a more interesting dynamic, I would argue, than Menagerie, which I did have a lot of great sections and stuff, but the actual combat in those sections was a little hit or miss. Like, depending on the room, density was good or density was bad, but and then also at times getting 6 people to actually do the objectives coherently may be a little harder than just getting 3 people to figure it out, and that could result in some bad runs that way. In terms of the mechanic to get more loot in this, this is something that I think has been extremely well done once you convince your teammates to actually start shooting the shard pots and picking all those up. And the end result is, if you do collect a lot of shards, get the occasional shard carrier, this is without question, there was no remote comparison to this, the most rewarding activity in terms of loot Destiny has ever done. You can't top this. You like need to empty your postmaster completely, more or less, to make a full run of this if you're getting all the way through tier 4. I've lost track, but I think it's something between, you can get between like 20 and 25 different pieces of loot, mostly weapons. There is a bonus chest with 1 or 2 weapons in it every traversal segment. At the end of every run, you get another weapon. You can get weapons as drops for completing it for a weekly challenge. And then, of course, if you get the big final room, which I think it's over 140,000 points. I heard 160. I've gotten it over 150. I swear I got it at like 146. You get a room full of 6 chests, 5 of which you can open, and even more guns, even more armor, and you're getting Ascendant shards and alloy guaranteed every time. You're even getting Nightfall ciphers. Like, why do we put that in there? But like, yeah, great, bring it on. And I don't think anything really compares to it in terms of the sheer volume of loot you're getting. Like, it is unprecedented. And I know Menagerie had its, 6 or 7 targeted pieces of loot that you could get per chest, and you could even pick the masterwork. However, we all know that that was mainly due to a glitch. That lasted for most of Menagerie's run. Eventually they did patch it out where you would have to run back and forth between hallways to get the chest to respawn, and that could get you about 6, 7, 8 drops of a weapon as opposed to the 1 to 2 or so you were supposed to get. So yeah, that was good, but that was not how it was supposed to work. And once they changed it, all of a sudden, no, a 20-minute Menagerie run did not really seem worth it for 1 or 2 focus drops of a weapon. And I think this, like, even if you're not target focusing anything here, you're getting a ton of options for god rolls on like every slot, and you're getting red borders for crafting. And that's, I talked about this before, and like, I'm mostly anti-crafting, and I think that's kind of exemplified here, where 10 of the weapons that you can get as drops here can be crafted. So getting any god rolls, like I've gotten some really sick, Season of the Wish weapon roles that I really like, but I know it's ultimately pointless because in 2 weeks or whatever I'll have all the red bars and I can just craft the perfect version. And like I know that people like this for some things, and I get people have done like 200 trials focusing engrams for their grenade launcher and like whatever, but it feels to me like there's a middle ground. And that's why it feels to me like there's the Dreaming City weapons are more exciting because they can't be crafted. And I got a what's it called, Kinetic Tremors Tiger Spite that is a really cool roll, and that is not something I can craft, so I'm actually like happy with that drop. So I think overall though, I mean, it's a great system. Like anytime we're getting this much loot, it's 40 minutes, yeah, for a full run, but like it doesn't matter. Like loot per hour or however you want to count that, there's nothing that comes even close to this. And I think that was a purposeful decision they made to stop being so stingy with drops. We could talk about other economy issues in the rest of the game and engram costs and all that stuff, but in this activity, there is nothing better than, you know, just getting a postmaster full of loot every time and sifting through it, seeing what cool rolls you got, and collecting red borders, whatever. It feels like you're really rewarded for pushing through all the way to the end. It can be frustrating if you don't get there. If with pure match-made teams, it's really hit or miss. I just completed a really great 40-minute run with 2 match-made guys, including one guy who died a bunch in the first segment, so I was like, oh no. But he picked it up, and we did great. We kicked ass, and we got to tier 4. I've been making official, you know, fire team finder things that are just say, shoot the pots, please. And that gets people who, like, if you know what that means, you know what you're doing, and so you will get pretty much all the shards and get to the room if you can not die and your team is actually good, in addition to knowing you know, how to do it. So that to me, all of this adds up to, I think, what could be one of the best activities in Destiny seasonal history. I really do genuinely believe that, and I really can think you can make the argument that this is actually better than Menagerie, which has always been the gold standard, a huge sprawling thing that was developed you know, when Bungie had all these support studios and things, and it came alongside a raid, and like nothing will ever, you know, we're not getting a full raid plus a giant activity like Menagerie anymore. But if we're just doing pound for pound, even if we let Menagerie, you know, keep its chest glitch, which is not supposed to exist, I still think in terms of the way, the type of challenge, the way it's fun, the different mechanics, the amount of loot you get, this is stellar. And I don't know how much it'll change in future weeks, like how many more sections will get added, blah blah blah. And obviously, I do think we will burn out on it at some point, because this is Destiny, and you play one activity too many times, and you get all your red borders, and there's nothing left you really care about getting necessarily, except farming alloy or whatever for Dreaming City weapons. Yeah, you're going to burn out. Nothing lasts forever. So enjoy it while it lasts, as this is a kind of rare Insta W for Bungie, I think. Yeah, we had all the drama with the starter pack and all that stupid bullshit, but like, in terms of actual content delivery, like, it's too early to say anything about the story and whether that's going to be interesting, but the Coil is a clear win. I think the Coil is definitely a win, and I think it should be treated as such. And obviously we will keep monitoring it as time goes on. I think there are certainly things they could do to adjust it a bit. They already said they're going to lower the shard requirement for the treasure room, which, okay. And modifiers like the negative modifiers, like Together, are just very annoying, or Together are all very annoying. I don't like that. And if they put in like air or airborne or whatever it is, you have to get shot. If you're getting shot while you're in the air, it hurts more. Like, I hate all that stuff. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of those kind of negative modifiers, but we'll see what they do with that as time goes on. I expect they won't change right away, but. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on Coil. I am curious to hear what you guys think about it. I think it's been a generally pretty positive reaction to it, even among, you know, all Destiny's other issues right now. I think we could say that this specific activity is shaping up to be really good. The season as a whole, yeah, we'll see, but I am very impressed with the Coil. I don't think that really comes across if you're just playing the intro mission, because you're not playing the Coil, you're just playing a thing of Riven's Lair, which is not the same thing at all. And if you play it and you get some crappy teammates for a while, you may think it sucks because you're just losing at tier 2 or tier 3 or whatever. But get a good team, learn the mechanics, shoot the pots, get a ton of loot. There's a lot going for it here. So anyway, I'm gonna watch some Dungeon People, and I will be back Monday with another video. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.